The wind brushes across a vast plain. The camera drifts over an ancient landscape bruised by time. Foundations of something colossal lie buried beneath centuries of soil and silence. The voice begins, "There are structures on this planet, real, measurable, undeniable, that should not exist. Stones cut so perfectly we cannot replicate them with modern tools. Blocks moved so far that the math simply doesn't work. Chambers aligned to stellar precision, down to fractions of an arc degree, that engineers still scratch their heads at. In Peru, there's a doorway carved into solid bedrock with no tool marks at all. In Egypt, there are drill holes that would require machinery capable of applying pressure we don't even use today. In India, a temple is built from granite so hard that carving it with bronze tools, the official explanation, is a laughable impossibility. These structures are not myths, not legends, not artistic exaggerations. They're still here, still measurable, still mocking every official explanation. And so the question arises, not just how, but who? Who built these? Who engineered these impossibilities? Who possessed knowledge so precise that even now, with satellites, lasers, computers, and nuclear-scale energy, humans still shrug and admit, we don't actually know how this was done. Tonight, we are going to follow the blueprint, not of a culture we remember, but of one we have forgotten, a race, whether human or something else, that mastered engineering techniques we have yet to rediscover. And whether they vanished or were erased is the real mystery. The story you're about to hear does not begin in a single country or a single era. It does not belong to any one civilization in the textbook timeline. It stretches across continents, stone for stone, measurement for measurement, anomaly for anomaly. And once you see the pattern, you will never look at the ancient world the same way again. Official history tells us that civilization is roughly 6,000 years old, that human technological advancement has followed a steady, logical progression, Stone Age to Bronze Age to Iron Age to Industrial Age to Digital Age. But what if that story is wrong? What if it's missing an entire chapter? Or worse, an entire civilization? In this film, we're going to investigate structures that cannot be duplicated today with our modern machinery. We're going to examine the mathematics embedded in stone architecture that implies knowledge of astronomy, geometry, acoustics, and metallurgy that should not have existed. We'll study the strange precision-cut walls in the Andes, where massive blocks interlock like puzzle pieces, fitted so perfectly that not even a razor blade can slide between them. We'll explore why some ancient pillars display spiral drilling patterns that match modern industrial machines, yet supposedly were carved by simple hammers and chisels. We're going to look at temples with alignments so unbelievably exact that the builders clearly possessed advanced astronomical understanding. We will question whether the engineering knowledge was lost due to time or whether it was taken. Viewers will discover that in multiple parts of the world the same construction methods appear. Megalithic stones, cut with the same technique, exist continents apart. That legends of a first people, a sky people, or an older race are not isolated myths, but echo across cultures. And that the idea of a forgotten civilization is not fantasy, but possibly the only explanation that truly makes sense. By the end of this documentary, you will see overwhelming evidence that either ancient humans were far more advanced than we think, or the builders were not fully human as we understand the term. Tonight, we unwrap the thread connecting these mysteries, and we ask, are we really the first advanced civilization on Earth, or merely the latest? Let us begin with the official narrative. Mainstream archaeology asserts that ancient builders used crude tools, long time spans, and massive human labor to create monumental structures. The great stones were supposedly dragged by ropes and manpower. The precise cuts were made by chiseling slowly and carefully. The alignments were accidental or symbolic. The engineering, good fortune and hard work. But problems arise almost immediately. Take the Baalbek foundation stones in Lebanon, each weighing up to 1,200 tons. To put that in perspective, modern cranes struggle to lift even 200 tons. Yet these stones were carved, transported, and positioned with accuracy that defies explanation. Or the Giza pyramids, the official claim, built in about 20 years. To achieve that, workers would have to place one massive stone block every 2 to 3 minutes continuously for 2 decades, with no mistakes and with perfectly consistent alignment. Historian Graham Hancock, engineer Christopher Dunn, Professor Joseph Davidovits, among others, have all challenged the orthodox narrative. They point to physical data rather than unverified assumptions. Their argument is simple. You cannot hand-wave engineering. If a stone weighs 1,000 tons, you either have the machinery to move it or you don't. If drilling marks show a level of rotational torque impossible by hand, then the tools must be more advanced than bronze chisels. Ancient culture after ancient culture attributes their megalithic structures to an earlier, more advanced group. The Inca said the giants built Sacsayhuaman. The Egyptians themselves hinted that the pyramids existed before them, or were at least based on knowledge they inherited rather than invented. And indigenous tribes repeat the same story. We did not build this, it was here. Archaeologists shrug and insist these are myths. But what if the cultures were telling the truth? What if they didn't build these structures because someone else did? We'll examine the contradictions. We'll analyze the anomalies. We'll gather the scattered pieces of the blueprint. And once assembled, the picture that emerges is unmistakable.
The accepted explanation of ancient construction rests on a familiar premise. Thousands of workers, basic tools, and enough time can accomplish anything. It is an appealingly simple story, but simplicity is not accuracy. Imagine trying to cut perfectly straight grooves into granite using copper tools. Modern engineers laugh at this suggestion. Granite is many times harder than copper. You can scrape copper against granite for a year, and it will barely leave a visible mark. And yet, in ancient Egyptian artifacts, we find precision-cut stone with smoothness comparable to machine-finished surfaces. Some drill cores, stone cylinders left behind from boring tools, reveal spiral grooves so tight, uniform, and deeply pressured that they indicate the use of high-speed rotating drills, capable of applying immense downward force. The standard rebuttal is they had lots of time. But time does not substitute for insufficient technology. You cannot dig a tunnel with bare hands, even if given 1,000 years. You need the right tools. Then there are the stones themselves. Many of the largest megalithic stones are so heavy that we cannot lift them today with standard equipment. Some weigh more than a fully loaded Boeing 747, yet they were moved, not just lifted, but transported across rough terrain, elevated slopes, and placed into impossibly tight formations. If thousands of workers supposedly dragged the stones, where are the ramps? Where are the support structures? Where is the evidence of scaffolding, earthworks, and failed attempts? For many of these sites, we find none of these things. Instead, we find immaculate precision. We also find strange chronological contradictions. Some stone sites appear older than the civilizations officially credited with building them. Researchers studying erosion have suggested that the Sphinx may bear water weathering patterns from a time when the region experienced heavy rainfall, thousands of years before Egypt's desert climate. When questioned, traditional historians often respond with speculative explanations, patched theories that shift depending on which anomaly they must dismiss. But evidence either exists or it doesn't, and in site after site, culture after culture, the official narrative keeps breaking apart, unable to reconcile simple physical facts with the stories in textbooks. And this was only the beginning. Now we examine the stones themselves, their shape, alignment, finish, and interconnection. At Ollantaytambo in Peru, enormous andesite blocks, many over 50 tons, fit together with polygonal precision. These stones are not rectangular. They are irregular shapes that interlock on multiple sides, forming joints that resist seismic movement. Modern engineers laugh at this suggestion. Andesite is many times harder than copper. In Pumapunco, Bolivia, blocks of diorite and granite, again among the hardest stones on Earth, feature perfectly symmetrical, machine-like cuts, right angles, and drilled openings. The craftsmanship resembles mass-produced components, suggesting standardized measurements and specialized tools. And in Egypt, resonance chambers carved in stone have acoustic properties that amplify specific frequencies. Were they for ritual, for healing, or for something else? Something technological. Another anomaly, the alignment of many ancient structures to exact astronomical orientations. The Great Pyramid's sides align to true north with an error of only a tiny fraction of a degree. The accuracy is superior to many modern constructions. How could a supposedly primitive society achieve this? More enigmatic still, microscopic analysis of certain tool marks suggest cutting techniques that used energy or abrasion methods unknown to conventional archaeology. One recurring observation haunts every site. Stone surfaces appear to have been softened. Some scholars wonder whether an unknown chemical or energetic process was used to soften and mold stone rather than carving it. Ancient legends speak of liquid stone or songs that softened rock. These accounts could be metaphorical or literal descriptions. And all around the world, cultures claim the builders possessed secret knowledge later lost. So who or what built this? It's one thing to imagine a technologically advanced society developing ingenious methods, but there is a deeper paradox at play: population and logistics. Many ancient sites were supposedly built by small populations with limited labor pools. If a city had only tens of thousands of inhabitants, how could they spare the vast physical workforce needed to build megalithic structures? Who farmed? Who hunted? Who maintained daily life? Where were the housing facilities for tens of thousands of laborers? Where are the graves of those who died during construction? We find no evidence of mass labor settlements at many sites. Then consider the precision scale. Structures like the pyramids required organizational capability comparable to a modern industrial state. Coordinated logistics, transportation systems, advanced planning, and mathematical oversight. Even today, to quarry a single 1,000-ton stone would require an immense supply chain, specialized vehicles, reinforced roads, energy sources, and safety considerations. Yet we are to believe that ancient builders, without wheels, pulleys, or iron tools, managed it effortlessly. Moreover, many of these sites are located far from natural resources. The stones had to be transported from quarries dozens or even hundreds of miles away. Moving one block would be a monumental challenge. Moving hundreds? Implausible. And then there's the time paradox. Some monuments show uniform, uninterrupted construction quality. There is no sign of trial and error, no beginner phase, no apprenticeship period visible in the archaeology. The builders seem to start with perfection. This suggests that whoever built these structures was not experimenting. They already possessed mastery, knowledge that seems to appear fully formed. But the biggest clue was still ahead.
Throughout modern history, artifacts and texts have surfaced that contradict official timelines, only to vanish, be discredited, or quietly shelved. There have been accounts of anomalous artifacts found in coal deposits, metal spheres embedded in ancient geological layers, maps showing accurate coastlines long before exploration, and stories of chambers beneath pyramids that remain off-limits to the public. Researchers have described stone tools with machining characteristics, metallic objects with purity levels requiring unknown refining techniques, and ancient batteries capable of electrochemical reactions. Some indigenous traditions speak openly of first builders, star ancestors, or giants with superior knowledge. Academics dismiss these as mythology, but is it wise to ignore every ancient account simply because it doesn't fit current assumptions? Even more intriguing is the genetic element. On multiple continents, ancient skeletons have been found with unusual proportions, taller than average, with elongated skulls, or anomalous bone structure. Many of these finds were whisked away into private or governmental archives, never to be seen again. Whenever a discovery suggests a more complex picture of human history, it is often met with resistance. Careers depend on the current narrative staying intact. Grant funding is tied to orthodox interpretations, and so evidence that challenges the status quo is often sidelined. Someone didn't want this part of history to survive. Look across the world map. Polygonal interlocking stonework, Inca regions, Japan, Turkey, Easter Island. Cyclopean masonry of giant stones, Lebanon, Egypt, Peru, Greece. Advanced astronomical alignments, Giza, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, Teotihuacan. Myths of a first civilization, Sumerian tablets, Mayan codices, Aboriginal Dreamtime, Norse legends. The same architectural signatures appear in places separated by oceans. The same symbols, the same mythical narratives, the same unexplained engineering capabilities. Either these cultures independently invented identical techniques by coincidence, or they inherited them from the same source. Patterns don't lie. Mathematics doesn't lie. Stone geometry doesn't lie. When you overlay these sites on a globe, lines of correlation appear. Not random, but structured. They cluster along certain latitudes, align with magnetic lines, and mark energetic nodes on planetary grids long known to ancient societies. These were not isolated marvels. They were part of a system, a global network of knowledge and construction left behind by a civilization older and more capable than anything we've officially acknowledged. And so, we arrive at the unavoidable conclusion, a revelation that once accepted reframes everything we know about human history. There's only one logical conclusion. We have followed the stones. We have traced the alignments. We have confronted the impossible engineering. The blueprint is not hidden. It's scattered, fragmented, waiting to be reassembled. And when we put the pieces together, a picture emerges. These structures were not the beginning of civilization. They were the remnants of something that came before. This forgotten race, whoever they were, possessed knowledge that was not merely ahead of its time, but beyond our own. They understood resonance, vibration, astronomy, and stone manipulation at a level that borders on the technological or the metaphysical. Consider this possibility. What if the progression of human civilization is not a gradual climb from primitive ignorance, but the recovery from a catastrophic loss, a global reset, a collapse, a cataclysm that shattered an advanced civilization, leaving behind fragments, the megaliths, the monuments, the coded architecture as clues. Perhaps they were not just builders, but engineers of energy. The stones may have been components of a planetary network, harnessing Earth's natural frequencies for purposes we have yet to rediscover. And the myths of gods descending from the sky, of visitors from other realms, of beings possessing impossible knowledge, might not be stories meant to entertain, but memories of a real presence. Here is the final twist. What if we are the amnesiacs? A species with inherited greatness, but no memory of its origin. The lost civilization may not have been alien to Earth. It may have been an earlier humanity, different in physiology, in lifespan, perhaps in cognitive perception, and perhaps some of them survived. Their knowledge became legend. Their science became myth. Their history became fairy tales. Until someone, one day, looks at the stone and asks the forbidden question, what if we are not the first? This is the unsettling answer. We are not the apex of history. We are its reconstruction. Humanity is not a young civilization. It is an old one, still trying to remember itself.
The camera returns to the megaliths, silent, unmoving witnesses of time. These stones have seen epochs rise and fall. They have withstood floods, quakes, war, erosion, and reconstruction, and yet they remain. They are the voice of the past, not in words, but in geometry and mass. Modern civilization prides itself on progress, on skyscrapers, microchips, and satellites. But are these truly achievements of innovation, or rediscoveries of knowledge once common. There is humility in acknowledging that others came before us, greater in understanding, deeper in wisdom, grander in ambition. If a forgotten race engineered miracles in stone, what did they know of nature, of consciousness, of energy, of humanity's role in the cosmos? We stand today amid their ruins, not as their superiors, but as their descendants. Their message is etched not in books, but in bedrock. Maybe they knew that paper burns, libraries collapse, language shifts, but stone endures. And one day they knew we would awaken enough to ask, what really happened here? And when we ask that question earnestly, without prejudice, without arrogance, we begin to reclaim our lost inheritance. Perhaps their greatest gift was not what they built, but what they left for us to discover. What do you think? Were these engineering marvels created by a lost chapter of humanity, one wiped from memory? Were they aided by an external intelligence? Or do we simply underestimate ancient human capability? Before you answer, pause and consider the evidence we've explored tonight. The precision, the scale, the global pattern, the repeating myths, the silence of the official narrative. Now, I invite you to join the conversation. Leave a comment. Do you believe human history is older and more advanced than what we've been taught? Share your theories, your questions, your doubts. Tell us which monument or discovery shocked you the most. And if you want more investigations, more unfiltered explorations into the mysteries of our past, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who's ready to question the official story, because the truth isn't hidden, it's buried in plain sight. And together, we are beginning to uncover it.